I was reading an article by 401k specialists. They say that nearly half of American retirees say spending their retirement savings creates anxiety, and nearly a third are spending faster than they expected. So if you're in that category, you're not alone, but let's go through 6 hacks to help you save for retirement or keep saving while you're in retirement. All right, so the first one let's talk through is one that some people may say, wow, that just is an obvious one, but what we found as planners here at Jazz Wealth is that that's not always the case. Instead, we're seeing a lot of people grab a credit card, use their credit card, and be hesitant to pay it off, which goes back to the quote that 401k specialists talked about there, where nearly half of people in retirement are having trouble spending their retirement savings. So instead, what they're doing is they're grabbing a credit card and they're saying, okay, well, let me just put a little bit on that. Maybe eventually I'll pay that off. No, that's a bad idea because you've got high interest credit card debt that is not ever playing in your favor. So make sure that you're doing that, taking care of that, and not running up a bunch of credit cards in the retirement years. Second one is play the tax game. You know, there's some opportunity here when it comes to keeping more dough in your pocket and less in the government's pocket. And part of that comes into financial planning. Not everybody is in the same situation. But what we generally find is if you take from your brokerage account first, or your taxable, individual, joint, whatever that account is that has short, long-term capital gains, there's multiple terms for it, start there. While you do that, then you're able to potentially do Roth conversions because you can keep your tax liability low in those years. So the Roth conversions could help you as well. Now, Roth conversions, as I've stated so many times in videos, is not for everybody. It is something that is on a case-by-case basis. So make sure that you're looking at that and don't just jump in and do a bunch of Roth conversions at once. But if you start with a brokerage account, then you're going to work to the tax-deferred account. And then finally, oftentimes, you're ending up with that Roth IRA. Now, the Roth IRA is something that grows tax-free. And so there's a lot of opportunity here if you stage that one for 5 to 10 years at least. If that's how far that is out for needing it, you have the opportunity to make that more growth. Let that thing grow for you. Compound interest, tax-free. I mean, nobody can beat that. So definitely look at that one. Also, we've got use the brokerage account in the early years before you hit Medicare. By doing that, if you're doing the conversions, it makes it a little clunky here. But if you're just looking at keeping your costs low, what it's going to allow you to do is potentially qualify for some of the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Now, I call it the unaffordable if your income is really high. But by using brokerage accounts, oftentimes you can keep your income lower, allowing you the opportunity to take advantage of some things. And again, save some money for yourself. You know, throw that on the government. If they're offering it, let's play the game here. And then we've got avoid a major withdrawal. And so many people go through retirement and they say, hey, I'm going to retire and I have this dream car, this dream boat. I've got the dream boat. Something there that you're looking at that you're wanting to make a big purchase. Possibly not just doing it all at once, though. This is something that you want to plan for and really factor into the equation. Because if you rip all of the money out at once, remember, one big thing is that you're going to have a higher tax liability, which means that you're paying more to the government, saving less dollars. The second thing that you're going to have to be concerned with is IRMAA. IRMAA is if you spend too much money or make too much in income, or what's showing as income to the government, and you're going into the Medicare years, then you have the possible liability of a higher Medicare expense. That's where IRMAA comes into play. And now remember with this, Medicare does a 2-year look back. So if you say, well, I'm only 63, well, guess what? They're going to be looking at that year. And so then when you turn 65 to figure out what you've spent. Then we've got number 5 is Social Security. Time your Social Security. So many people look at this and they say, you know what, I'm going to take the money from Social Security at 62. Reason being is it allows your other accounts to grow. Now, they think that's the saving method, but sometimes it actually costs you. So this is one that you really want to think through. Do some planning around this to make sure it fits into your plan. Because what we're seeing here is if you take it at 62 versus 67, let's just say that you're taking a $1,000 haircut. Well, if you're taking a $1,000 haircut on that, first of all, it's going to cost you long-term by taking it earlier because you're obviously taking less dollars. But second, you've got inflation that's going to be stamped on there. So you've got the guaranteed inflation rate that's coming in from the government. They're backing that, saying, hey, we're going to adjust every single year by whatever inflation is. Well, if you've got $1,000 and it's 2.5%, it's obviously going to be less that you're getting as a raise in with Social Security than if you're getting $2,000. So really figuring out that. And with Social Security also, I always tell people there's a few different factors that you want to take into play here when it comes into this. One of them, and the primary thing, is your health. It depends on your health. If you're 62 and you say, hey, I'm not promised tomorrow, maybe you're not married, so you don't have to worry about anybody else and it's just you that you're focusing on. Well, take the darn Social Security, because, if you're not promised tomorrow and you're not sure what's going on here and you got some bad health, well, we don't want to just hand it all back to the government. But if you're thinking, hey, you know what, longevity is in my family, I'm looking to live till 90 years old possibly, well, then, might want to sit there and think about that. And the second thing when it comes to looking at Social Security is I forgot what my second thing was. And the second thing with Social Security is, where's the market at right this second? Because let's just say that you didn't position your accounts how I always talk about positioning these in the retirement years, having two buckets. We call it the two-bucket Powell method, where you have conservative dollars and growth dollars. You're working in between the two. Let's just say that you didn't think about that. Everything was in growth. Well, if the market falls apart, maybe it is a good idea to then take the Social Security while the market is really low and you don't want to pull from those dollars. Instead, you can let those recoup and offset some of that. So there's things to think about there with Social Security. And then number 6, we've got to think through the HSA. People have all of this money that they stow away through the years in an HSA, which is great because you get a tax deferral on it. And if it's used for qualified expenses, then it's tax-free. Now, remember, that's the key here, though. You want to make sure that you're using these for qualified expenses to have that tax-free opportunity. That allows you to, again, get more bang for your buck in the retirement years. So I'm sure there's more that you can think of. Let me know in the comments if you think of one yourself.